Yeah, we're live.
Hey! Hiya, Shane. You're looking different, mate.
I know. I grow my hair back.
Hey, how about that? That's
How
why
are you,
you've never
Andy?
got any money. I'm all right,
How
Sam.
are you?
Nice to see you, bud. Nice to see you, mate.
Very good.
So tonight we're going to very quickly talk about Kickstarters, because not only we've got Dan on tonight with a cosplayer who doomed the Earth, we've also this evening got some friends of the show that have gone live on Kickstarter. So the 77 have gone with issue 6.
Nice.
We got John Short's Helga Frankenstein, a very good friend of mine. That's always worth backing. We've got Meanwhile, number 10, which we were talking to the guys last week.
Yeah, that was good.
We've also got Graham Puttock is halfway through his Dogjaw, and Graham's a very good friend of ours as well. And the great news that Shift are doing Brawler in WH Smith's.
Oh, wow.
So
that's
Shift
big news.
magazine are doing a Brawler special. Yeah. They're also doing a Space Warp one as well that's going to be going into Smith's.
Wow, that's really big. That's great.
Yeah, so that's cool. So Steve Tanner is, well, I do a lot of work with Steve, so very pleased for him.
Is a complete takeover of all things British comics.
Well, I hope
and now he's taking over at WH Smith's.
Well, there we go. And I don't think it's going to be top shelf. It's just going to, they're sort of halfway up, aren't they, in Smith's?
It's irrelevant now. They're all over the place.
Next to Viz and Health and Efficiency.
Yes. So we don't have Shane at the moment.
Seems to be no Shane.
He just had some internet problems just before we went live, and he's always trying.
I think we say roll VT.
Yes, let's roll VT and see what happens.
Sam, roll VT. There we go. Hello, we've got Shane's frozen face, and we've got Dan. We've got a Welsh takeover.
Dan,
hello.
How are you doing, mate?
I'm very good, thank you. I've put a hat on because I realised I haven't shaved my head, and it's got that horrible middle-aged man look right now. So
same with me and Sam.
Oh yeah.
It really bugs me because when I first met Sam was always like a few years older than me and sort of thing, and I was like in my early 20s with short spiky hair and all this like. And now Sam pretty much looks the same. I've got a completely white beard, and I've gone bald. So it's time hasn't been as kind.
My beard's a little bit white. It's sort of how it's had a little bit of assistance to stay this dark, but still. Yeah. I've known Dan for many years from Cardiff, and then all the ice shows and everything since then.
So were you all part of the? Because Sam, I met Dylan and all those guys through you, and David Roach, and you're like an old friend. Dan, do you know those guys as well?
Yeah, I know. I know. Is he talking about Dylan?
Dylan
Teague. Which Dylan? Dylan Teague.
Oh, Dylan Teague.
Yeah. Dylan's. 2 Dylans.
A couple of Dylans. Yeah.
It's Wales. Yeah. There's like every third person named Dylan.
Every third person's called Dylan.
Dylan. No, I know Dylan Teague quite well. He's a mate of mine. He's a good lad.
Because he's in the prog, isn't he, this week, Sam?
Isn't Dylan in? Absolutely, yeah. It's the Dread. Some great interior art. It's really good. It's really good.
His stuff is just phenomenal. Like why he's not bigger than he is.
Well, how big do you want him to be? He's in the prog.
He is, but like
that's good.
Yeah, but you see his stuff and like
it's amazing. It's like European style Mebius. It's gorgeous. Did you see Maddie, the Kickstarter Duncan Jones's Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He did the first like 20 pages, and they are just gorgeous. Absolutely.
It's deadlines, though, isn't it? It's like Gary Leach. He's got that sort of style that is just hard to keep going.
Oh, Shane's on the move.
Oh,
Shane's
hello.
on the move.
Hello, Shane.
I'm tuning in on my phone, guys. I'm on my phone. For some reason, the internet works on my phone.
Welcome to the Ice Cast there, Shane.
Anyway, Shane, so what are you doing here then? What you got to tell us about, mate?
I must say, you guys are doing a great job without me.
Well, there we go. Sam.
I'm redundant, aren't I?
Oh, Andy's frozen now. Is Andy frozen? Okay.
Oh, is he? No, he's not. No, he's not.
Ha, ha, ha.
Oh, well, I'll just belatedly say welcome to the Icecast Live, Dan.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
This is the Lunatics Have Taken Over the Asylum special.
Yeah. They've done a great job of standing in for me. And, well, this is why I have a co-host, because, you know, things go wrong, don't they?
The safety net.
What have I missed? What we've been talking about?
About Cardiff,
Dylan
basically, and Dylan Teague.
Yeah, Cardiff. Yeah.
Cardiff
Sam and I have known each other for 20 years this year since I started Forbidden Planet.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I genuinely, yesterday, I saw Forbidden Planet Cardiff posted an advert saying they're looking for part-time staff. And I've got such rosy memories of it now. The part of me was like, should I apply? You know, I don't even need to, but I'm like, should I apply and work there again? You know?
I mean, I still know tons of people from when I worked in Forbidden Planet. Yeah, it was great times. Great times.
Oh. Yeah. I've never worked in a comic shop, but I did sort of rent some space in a comic shop for a couple of years in my local comic shop, selling, you know, small press and indie books. And they gave me
the worst thing about comic shops is, well, basically the customers.
Oh,
you can't say that. We're on a podcast that goes out to comics fans.
The best thing. Sorry,
the thing is, you can say that. You can say that, but comic shop customers will hear that and they'll think, "No, he's right." Yeah, because there's that one guy. You know, it's never about them. It's about the people that you know.
It's the other ones.
It's about the customers who, not your regulars, not the ones you come in and then go down the pub with after. It's the people who come in and go, I bought this. And like this one guy came in and he had a bag, an old Tesco bag, and he emptied it. It had like music cassettes, old music cassettes, which he said, I bought these last week from here and I want my money back. They didn't work. And we don't sell cassettes. They're like 10 years old. And no, fuck off. Those are the customers. Those are the customers.
That's a classic.
Yeah, we get people that all the time. People just try it on all the time.
This one guy came in. He was from Swansea, and he was in Cardiff. So he thought he'd come in. It was on. It was when I was doing the pull for the standing orders. So we'd sectioned off the area so nobody could get in over to get the new comics until I'd done the standing orders. And this guy comes up and he goes, "Excuse me, I want X-Men, Spider-Man, Batman, blah, blah, blah." And he made this list. And I said, "Oh, I'm sorry." I said, "I can't give you any because I'm doing the standing orders first. They get priority. Once the standing orders have been done, I'll pull the tape back and then you can come through and you can help yourself." He said, "Well, that's not acceptable." I said, "What?" And he went, "Well, that's not acceptable." He said, "I want," and he listed them off again. I said, "Well, look," I said, "you can't have them." I said, "Because this is we're doing standing orders first." I said, "We've literally just got the stock in. I'm putting them out. Once that's done, it won't take me long. It's taking me longer because you're talking to me. Once that's done, you can help yourself the comics." And he said, "Well, I want to speak to the manager." I said, "Well, if you look up there, if you see the guy over at the counter, the tall guy pointing at Rod," I said, "if you go up to him, then he'll, you can complain to him. He's my boss." So this guy, he goes trouncing up to the front of the shop and he goes, "Yeah, I want to complain." And Rod went, "Right, what's the matter?" He says, "Your staff member down the back of the shop, he won't give me the comics I want. I've asked him for this, and this, and he won't get them for me." And Rod said, "Well, he's got to do the standing orders first. Once he's done those, anybody from the public can go and help themselves." And he said, "Well, that's disgusting." He said, "Oh, if that's the case, then I'm going to go back to Swansea and I'm going to go to Dave's." And Rod just stood there. Honestly, Rod just went like that. He went, "Okay." And the guy just went, "What?"
That's
went,
the
"Okay."
worst he could do. Yeah, offer to take his custom elsewhere. Looks like we've got another. Hey, if we're going to have some comic book talk, we've got someone else joining. we've got Chris, who also works in a Forbidden Planet.
Hey!
Oh,
Talking about selling comic books, I'll have to jump in.
Hello,
Evening,
Chris.
mate.
How you doing?
Oh,
Sorry,
nice to see
Dan
you,
is
bud.
Chris. He's one of our ice people, and he also works. He works in Forbidden Planet. Wolverhampton. That's it.
yeah, man. It's a Forbidden Planet posse, isn't it?
Picking them up.
So Sam, not our Forbidden Planet, the other Forbidden Planet.
No, the different
The
one.
other
Yeah.
The other one.
Right.
Yeah.
The
Enemy.
secret split between Forbidden Planets.
That nobody ever talks about.
No.
Yeah, I'm on the good one.
Anyway, I'm sure we were here to discuss something else apart from, well, we talk about whatever we want, don't we?
Although you said it was Forbidden Planet Cardiff needed jobs, and that's one of ours. So Forbidden Planet International, if that's what you was talking about.
Oh, is it?
Yep, that's
Same
us.
one.
It's the same one.
Oh,
And one.
you're on the good side then.
Yeah. I'm on the dark side. Ooh.
You do
Light side of
the Forbidden Planet International handshake. Yeah.
So, as Andy quite rightly says, we should be talking
I'm
about
sure,
your new book, Dan. So, do you want to tell us a little bit about it, where it comes from, and what the idea behind it is?
Yeah, so it is a weird one because I've been working Comic Cons now for 10 years, and it's sort of one where and I remember going to Bristol in the early noughties, and cosplay wasn't a thing. You know, there wasn't really. You get the odd one or two people dress up, and then you look at them and go, look at those weirdos. What do you dress up as Spider-Man for? You know, and then over time, it seems to have taken off a lot more to the point where it seems to have eclipsed comics. You know, it's not so much. The focus doesn't seem to be so much on comics anymore, which is sad. But I started thinking about it as I was going over, as I was working a bunch of these cons, and you see all the people dressed up. And I thought, there's never really any comics about cosplayers, though. And I thought, I want to do one that would appeal to cosplayers, but could also appeal to people who hate cosplayers, but also appeals to people who like comics. So, you know, in the sense, you've got the main character is, or the hero, if you will, is a cosplayer. So obviously that appeals to cosplayer. They're the star of the story. They're the action star or whatever you want to call it. But everything goes horribly wrong for him, which appeals to the people who don't like cosplayers. So I just started milling over in my head, and I thought, what would be the most ridiculous thing that could happen to them? And then I started thinking, like, I just wanted something that was, I don't want to say not abstract, but weird, like that could be punchy and fast. So like a lot of it, that if you stop and think about it, it might not make too much sense. But if you just roll with the story, then it's a bit of fun, you know. So so it just came from working a load of Comic Cons, and it is about a guy called Griff who growing up played on the Mega Drive and then all the subsequent consoles a game called Captain Equitas and the Veritas Squad, and he was a big fan of it. So he'd always gone to Comic Cons and dressed up and stuff like that. And he'd gone to Comic Cons, but he'd never dressed up. And he finally decides he's going to do it. So he spends ages building his costume and all this. Then he tells his friend, Lee, he tells her that he's finished it and she can come and check it out. And she goes over and says, right, we're off to Comic-Con then. And then he cuts to the Comic-Con and he goes and he has a lovely time. And then this page here that you're showing right now is aliens land and they arrest him and put him on trial for war crimes because they think he is Captain Equitas. And then you've got this line of, is the computer game real and these aliens have sort of lived in it, or is it all fake? Is there a confusion with the aliens? And that's something I never really want to explain. But then as it's all going on, some characters from the games turn up to rescue him. And so then you're like, right, okay, so is it a sort of Last Starfighter thing where the game is representative of what's going on in space? Is it just a weird coincidence? And you know, obviously he's just a cosplayer, but then that means, is there actually a real Captain Equitas out there somewhere, or is it just all just I want it to be that sort of thing where you try and put it together yourself. It makes sense. It doesn't. That's a print I did for
that's awesome.
That's
Kickstarter.
Yeah,
I tried
really
to make it. It was supposed to be reminiscent of I think it was London Super Comic Con back when they still had that in the XL. Although it's probably closer to MCM really. And I put the pink Darth Vader in there because of the it was not long after the time where. What's that?
The Peter Serafinowicz sketch with the pink Darth Vader.
Actually, no, it wasn't. But that's a nice little link. It wasn't. It was because when they did Battlefront 2, the head of EA said that people don't want to play as a pink Darth Vader. so then it became a big meme. So I thought, oh, I'll chuck in a pink Darth Vader when I did the print. And
do you know what I mean about the sketch? There's a Peter Serafinowicz sketch where he plays Darth Vader, and there's a female Darth Vader who's basically that but pink.
Oh, it rings a bell. I can't. How old is it? Is it like old?
No. It's like about 10 years old. I mean,
that's old.
That's old.
10 years is old, isn't it?
Wow.
It's
all relative.
That's not old.
It's the Peter Serafinowicz show, definitely. Oh, anyway, carry on.
Yeah. We digress.
10 years ago, I just turned 30 and was depressed about turning 30. And now I'm 40, and that seems so much worse.
Oh, you're the youngest one here, mate.
Yeah.
And I look the oldest, so there we go. That's even more depressing.
Andy's always, with the monkey glands and all that. That's how he does it.
Yeah,
Andy's got
the oldest.
He's got an aging picture down in his basement.
Yeah,
all that. And they're stuck in the attic.
That's it.
So it's. I was just thinking as well, something else that very similar in its idea. The Galaxy Quest movie, was that an influence at all?
It wasn't, but then I watched it again recently after I put out issue 1 and 2, because I hadn't seen Galaxy Quest since a long time. And I watched it. I thought, I can sort of see the link, but with mine, it's more literally hapless, where he can't, like with Galaxy Quest, they seem to adjust to their situation, and then they all stand up to the plate and they're all doing this. And Griff can just never do that because he works in a bookshop and he's being sucked off into space. So he's not capable of, suddenly flying a ship or anything. So basically he's just there going, oh, please God, I don't want to, I included one of the pages from issue 2. This is the one of the early pages in issue 3. Because basically in issue 1, he ends up getting taken off and put on trial for war crimes, and that finishes with him being rescued by the Veritas Squad.
Spoilers.
And,
big spoilers.
It is. Sorry, big spoiler, but that's issue. I won't give any. Yeah. But then it's so that good. Well, I'm doing the Kickstarter for issue 3, so I'm like,
that's
I'm
all
sort of
right.
like, I don't know how much I can give away. And then in issue 2 is. Issue 2 is more of being on the lam, and then something happens in issue 2 which leads straight into issue 3. The cover for issue 3 is a bit of a giveaway, really. So you figure it out from there. But there is a bit in issue 2 where all this stuff keeps happening to him, and like Lee is explaining to him, look, you're not Captain Equitus, and he's like, no, I know. And she's like, yeah, but you're being set up, you're like a fall guy for some bad guy. And he's like, oh, and then he's like, whoa, heavy, I think I need an anxiety poo. So like I'm putting stuff like that. So he's not going to be this capable hero as such, is how I want it to play out. And so there we go. That's the pic. There you go. There it is.
Oh,
and,
brilliant.
Oh, look at the shamed eyes. Brilliant. Like a dog having a poo. They intrinsically know it's shameful when they poo, isn't it?
Yeah, they do. They look at you, don't they? In shame.
Mine does look at me, and she's like, "You're going to pick it up, but don't make eye contact." And it's the thing is, I've done a bunch of comics now, and I've done over the years, like I've done 8 issues of Loose Cannon, which is an adult sci-fi comedy, and in my head, I always think, right, my next comic I'm going to do is something a bit more serious and maybe not sci-fi. And I did Druid Investigations, and I did issue 1 of that. And I've always intended to do the next 5 issues of that. And I've not got round to that yet, because after I did issue 1, I ended up getting a load of work in stuff like TV and sort of behind the scenes stuff. And then I set up a Patreon. And on the Patreon, I thought, well, I need content for my Patreon. So I'll start doing a web comic that I can do there for my patrons to keep them interested, give them something to read. And then, I'll do Druid once I've got freed up all this work and I've got the time to work on it. But the time to work on Druid has never come, because I've constantly been chock-a-block for like the last 5 years with one thing or another. I worked on a TV series for S4C that went on to win a BAFTA. Then I won. Then I worked on the English version. Thank you. Then I worked on the English version for ITV, for CITV. And I've done some other stuff in TV and like TV advert storyboards and things like that. So the work never really let up. So I've been doing these other comics that were supposed to be for Patreon, and not doing Druid Investigations issue 2. And then I came up with cosplay, and I was like, I've got to do that. I reckon I can do this quite fast. You know, I'm gonna keep it simple. In my head, I was initially thinking like simple, as in Scott Pilgrim simple, but I just can't. I just get a bit sort of, and then I went color and all this, and yeah. And
do you think you're one of those creative people who has a short attention span? You know, you get into something, you get really passionate about it, and then another idea comes up, and it's like, oh, I want to do that now, and the old idea just seems like, oh, I've had enough of that.
To a point with some things, yes, and my patrons might say yes, because I was doing a comic on, and they called The Bunker, and I did 3 chapters. I was probably close on 100 pages of that, and then I got busy with other stuff, so I put it at the side. So I would say that my day job work distracts me from doing the passion projects a bit, and then I come up with another passion project, which is why Loose Cannon is ongoing, and I'm going to be coming back down doing issue 9 soon. But I originally did that with Jim Banfield and Chris Carter, and they sort of taken a break from comics for the foreseeable. So Loose Cannon going forward is going to be me on my own, which is going to be a bit harder. I say on my own. I do have HD as a letterer, and he's great. So, you know, I do stuff with him all the time. He's my go-to for that stuff. Yeah, he's wicked. And so Loose Cannon is an ongoing thing, but I thought I want to do a couple of projects. And the main reason for Druid to start with was I wanted to, because Loose Cannon is my idea. I created it back in 2001. And it took Chris Carter basically writing the first issue and penciling most of it to light a fire under my arse and me think, well, fuck, this is my comic and somebody else is doing it. So that got me going with that. And because of that, then I sort of like, right, that's ongoing. I want to prove I can do a comic on my own, which was Druid Investigations. And I will come back to that. But then I thought, right, I've got this fucking bonkers cosplayer idea I want to do. So I'll do that, and I can do it quick. And it's going to be 6 issues, one and done. There won't be any sequels to it. It won't be ongoing. It's just going to be 6 issues done, A5 format, 24 pages of story per issue. And there's scanning, yeah. And go for there and go from there. So yeah, sorry, I tend to waffle a bit, so I'm filling up your airtime. But
I was going to ask, how have you found now there? You know, Comic Cons are on pause, because obviously,
yeah,
you know, you
said a lot of stuff
every week, didn't we? There'd always be a Comic Con to look forward to. We'd be getting the comics ready, getting it all printed. Now, obviously, we've got Kickstarter. And as I was just mentioning earlier, the W.H. Smiths have started taking comics again.
Yeah, so, that's cool. And Steve as well. Steve's a workhorse. He's like non-stop, that guy. You know, and like he wears the most fabulous jacket. He's last time last time I saw him, we were having a pint in. No, actually, I've seen him since, but we had a pint in Kong's in Cardiff. Last time there was a Cardiff, a size, if you will. But not working Comic Cons has been weird, because you do shift a lot of books there. Like on the times where I do London MCM, which is a ball ache to get to, as you know, if you can't drive as well. Even if you can drive,
it's probably worse driving.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we
definitely want to train up there. Yeah.
Yeah. We got stuck on the M11 once for 8 hours. That sounds stupid like that. It was ridiculous. And like in London MCM, I've got a decent enough sales pitch that my comic sounds interesting enough that I can do quite well. Like, you know, I did Chris and Jim once. I did something stupid like 300 books, which for me was quite a lot. I was like, woohoo! You know, I sold 300 books.
That's really good.
Yeah, but like I managed to get. I've done one Comic Con with Cosplayer issue 1 and 2, and that was Troobs last year. And then after that, lockdown happened. And
well, that was the only Comic Con last year, wasn't it? True Believers.
It was, yeah.
That was was it February or something? And then that was it. We were all planning for all the big ones.
Oh, we've got the Kickstarter on the screen now, so let's have a little look at that. So this is for issue 3, but you can get 1, 2, and 3 on as an option, can't you, Dan?
Oh, you've done your goal already. You've already done it.
Yeah. I'm now aiming for a stretch goal of £1,500, which will unlock a sticker pack that I've designed. Well, you can see over there actually. And that's where I've done the I need an anxiety poo sticker. So I've got to read more comics one, because I remember I did a Loose Cannon one that was in the what's the the World War One poster. What was that guy's name? King? No, I can't remember. The general anyway.
I Need You.
Yeah, the I Need You guy. I forget his name off the World War One posters, the British one.
General Kitchener.
Kitchener. Yeah.
There we go. Yeah. That's the one. Yeah. I did a loose cannon one years ago, and people liked using it for cons and stuff. I know Iz used it for Cardiff cons and things like that. I thought I'll do one for cosplayer. So I thought I'd make a good sticker and get, read more comics, because I think people should read more comics, more indie comics specifically.
Yes.
I've been turned right off the big ones, to be honest. I got my reasons. There's no peril in it for me anymore.
They're coming back, don't you? Yeah.
Yeah. There's no sense.
I like
of
the fact in your Kickstarter that you specify that the computer game is fictional.
Yeah.
An old fictional computer game.
Well, what's it they say? You've got to cater to everybody. So you've got to take, like, if somebody went, "Oh, I don't remember that computer game," then I'm catering for them by saying it's fictional in advance. So that's my theory anyway. But yeah,
is it a bit of a challenge as well? Because you're doing a story about cosplayers, but obviously in reality, cosplayers are all dressed up as licensed characters, aren't they? So you've had to actually create all these characters that people can dress up as. That must have been a bit of a challenge.
That was the thing, because I thought for the main character, I did think first of all, real IP, and then I thought no, because that's just you're getting into too much trouble there. Lee, that should move now. It's a GIF that for some reason moves really, really slowly. But Lee, his best friend, she cosplays as something which is supposed to be a sort of homage to Harley Quinn, because it's sort of, so there are elements of that. And Captain Equitas is just Captain Equitas. It was, guy who spray paints a bike helmet, maybe. But yeah, it was like in issue 1, I've got a bunch of characters called the Death Pols. And that is my little sort of dig at, and I do apologize if any of you do cosplay as him, but Deadpool cosplayers, they're my one pet hate. I can't stand people who cosplay as Deadpool, and only because
why is it Deadpool that you can't? Is it because so many people do it, or?
No, I got no problem with people dressed up as Deadpool. You can get 1,000 people who dress up as Deadpool, and I would not give a shit. It's 1,000 people dress up as Deadpool and think that gives them the fucking right to act like Deadpool, like they are Deadpool. So all of a sudden they put a mask on. Like you see people dressed up as the Joker, and you say, "Oh, hey, how's it going?" And they go, "Oh, hi, thank you, yeah, blah blah blah," and they'll have a chat with you. You see someone dressed as Deadpool, and they have to act. There's no.
They're in character.
I was on a panel. I was on a panel at Cardiff, and there was as when the panel started, there was a couple of cosplayers who rudely stood behind. So it was on like a stage thing, and they just stood behind the panel, which was weird. I thought it was a bit odd, but in the end, they decided to leave. So they started walking out, and it was full of people. And as they're walking out, one of them just decides to bang a gong, and I look, and guess which one it was? It was the one dressed as Deadpool, and. So it's a little pet peeve of mine, and if anybody who's
I think you've had some bad experience with Deadpool cosplayers, I would say, and it's shaped your opinion of them, hasn't it?
Thing is, it's not like I even dislike the character. I like Deadpool. I think it's a pretty good character.
The license people think they have when to be a prick at Deadpool.
Yeah. It's like you see people at Comic Cons and they dressed as Wolverine, and they might wear the jacket and they might have the cigar in their mouth and all that, but they don't go running around like popping claws every couple of seconds, going snicked. They just don't do it. But for some reason,
calling everyone bub.
Calling everyone bub. But for some reason, Deadpool is I don't know. That's I've probably said too much now. I've probably just.
But remember though,
all the Deadpoolers.
Yeah.
But Deadpool is the only cosplayer in Lycra that has any money on him because of his pouches. So he can at least buy your comic. Yeah. Most cosplayers just go, got no money.
Yeah.
Got no money.
Thanks, Rob Lee, Phil.
Yeah. To be fair, I've got some friends who do cosplay, and one of them is I think you pronounce it as Masubi, but she's quite popular and stuff, and she does a lot of good cosplay. And I've told her in the past that I can't stand Deadpool cosplayers, and she hasn't cut off ties with me or anything like that. So it must be there must be something. Some people know, they must know. But yeah,
they see you coming. It's like all the Deadpoolers move.
Oh, they probably come up my table now. I've been cancelled by cosplayers. I don't know.
That's it. You've had it, mate.
Yeah, I probably have said too much, but anyway, I got, like I say, I got no problem with cosplayers. That's just my one pet peeve. So I've got a bunch of.
You wind it back now, Dan.
Yeah,
Wind it back, so you're not completely hassled at every convention by cosplayers going, "You're the guy. You're the guy who doesn't like cosplayers. Look, you can destroy the universe. You hate Deadpool."
But you're lucky because people in fandom don't hold grudges.
No,
Not at
Don't hold
all.
grudges
No.
or rewind.
They're all really well balanced
They
people.
do hold. They'll remember.
But if you
So
are
the
a
cosplayer is
cosplayer,
you.
maybe you should read Dan's comic and then find out how much he really loves you. Because, well, you know, they're very important. They're very important. They, you know,
I think the comic is a bit of a love letter to Comic Cons in general, and I think it doesn't paint cosplayers in a bad light. I think it's quite complimentary. Like I said, cosplayers should like it, but then also people who hate cosplayers should like it because of what happens to the cosplayers. But the cosplayers are nice people, you know. They're not, you know. So in theory, it should appeal to everybody, apart from maybe Deadpool fans, because I do kill a bunch of Deadpools. But
is this a bonus or on there? Because
that's an example. Basically, one of the tiers, the top tier, is I'll do like a digital commission for you, and that is a customer who came to me on Etsy a while back and said to me, "Would you be interested in doing this commission?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Right." He said, "I want He-Man fighting Lion-O, and I want Skeletor fighting Mumra." And I said, "Oh," I said, "wouldn't it make more sense to have Skeletor fighting Lion-O and He-Man versus Mumra, you know?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "I did think about that." He said, "But I thought I just want franchise versus franchise, not goodies versus baddies." So I was like, "Cool, all right." And it was fun. So I thought I'd put that as a top tier. One of them is gone. And that's just an example of what I can do. So, you know, I do the, you know, because if I just said I'll do a digital picture, but I'm not showing you any of my work, it might be a bit harder to swing. So, I don't know.
You do a lot of your sketches. You know, you like to popular characters doing stuff. I've got something. Last time I saw you, you gave me this, which is great. Hang on, let me just zoom in for this.
Oh yeah, my Jon Snow.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
I love that. I've got lots of your stickers and stuff on my fridge.
Awesome. Awesome. That one, yeah, I did that as a print originally, and then when I launched my Patreon, I started doing monthly postcard drawings for people. And it's like a lot of work. It takes me like 2 days to do them now. I think I've got like 14 or 15 to do a month. And it's like I do them full color postcard sketches, and I post them to my Instagram in the hopes that more people go, "Oh, I want one of those." And then I go get more work for myself. And then it takes me 3 days, and then I don't sleep, but I get to eat. So I had a bunch of postcards made up, and that's one of them. So I draw on the other side and send it off, and I stopped getting the print made then, because I thought the postcards cool, and I can focus on, you know, refreshing stock and doing new stuff. But yeah, so yeah.
Do you find sometimes that when you're into a project, you know, and you really want to get it done, do you find that you have trouble with managing time, like you getting your sleep in and all that sort of stuff?
Weirdly, yes and no. It's like I've had some jobs where if I've done a job for a TV advert and they say, "Oh, we're doing a pitch for this company and we need 4 storyboards done." Oh, and I'm like, "Oh, when do you need them by?" And they go, "Oh, till tomorrow." I'm like, "What?" "Yeah, we need them tomorrow." So I ended up on one job I worked from, and they didn't send me the script until 10 to 8 at night, and they wanted it the following morning by noon. So I was working from 8 o'clock until 6 a.m. And as I was going to bed, I could hear people getting up to leave for work. So part of me was like, "Oh, fuck you, you've had a good night's sleep." And then the other part of me was like, fuck you, I'm going to bed, you know? So,
yeah.
So I've had stuff like that. But generally, when it comes to my own stuff, if I'm in the right headspace for it, I try and do like a page a day, pencils and inks. If I can do that, and I'll do that. And I do that in the evening. This is why my comics, for the most part, are still hand drawn, because I spent all day working on the computer digitally drawing. That when I chill out at night, that's when I'm going to draw my comics mostly. And I don't want to be sat on the computer doing it. I want to be comfortable in front of the TV or something. Although I do have the tablet I'm talking on now. I spent a few £100 on one of those, and I do a lot of my drawing sat on my lap watching telly anyway now. But I hand draw my comics, ink them, then I scan them, and then I wait until I've finished them all, scan them all, and then I color them. but colouring takes like another day per page. So that's why, like, when I'm doing it myself, it takes longer. It's so much easier when you're part of a team.
Yeah. And it's hard to relinquish control sometimes, I guess, if it's your baby, if it's your creation and your vision, it's difficult, isn't it, to say, oh, I'm going to let someone else color this because they might not do it the way I want to do it or whatever.
That's the thing. You do say, sometimes you find yourself saying to like a colorist or something like that, you say, well, no, that's supposed to be this color. And, or you've done, when we first started doing loose scanning, Chris was, because obviously Chris has colored Doctor Who, he's colored Transformers, he's colored Turtles, he's done all sorts, so he's done quite a lot of stuff. And he said, right, I'm going to color these pages from loose scanning. And he colored Lou's ship, the Raging Hormone. He colored it red, like hot rod red. And I said, it's not hot rod red. And Jim was there, and Jim was like, no, it's not hot rod red. And Chris was like, what color is it? I said, it's pink. It's Cadillac pink, because the Raging Hormone is based on a 1950s Cadillac. And he was like, oh. So he changed it to pink. And always, ever since 2011, he's bitched about it, because he's like, no, I think it'd be better in hot rod red. I'm like, no, it's pink. It's pink. And then me and Jim, we were like, no, it's pink. So he backed down on it. And but yeah, it's normally, I think a lot of artists will tell you that working on their own stuff is ultimately what they want to do and what they want to make money off. But working on other people's stuff is more realistically what's going to pay the bills. But a lot of the time, it's a lot harder to find the motivation to do other people's stuff when you've got these ideas that you want to be working on yourself. And that's something I struggle with. I'm working on, I've been working on a bunch of kids' books now, and they pay the bills, and I did a TV show for S4C a few months ago, and that was a great gig, but at the same time, it's not my project as such.
What was it called, Dan?
What was what called?
What was the TV show called?
The TV show that I was working on recently. Hang on, I'd have to look it up because it's Welsh.
I was going to say, are you allowed to say as well? Is it?
No, he doesn't know how to say it.
No one will know what it means anyway.
It has aired. I did work on Project Z, which was Project Z in English. And then let's see now. I call up the name of it. God, I think it's just called. Actually, it's called Boom. Why am I looking it up? It's called Boom. It's made by the studio Boom, and it's called Boom. It's like Boom Science, I think. Yeah. And so basically, I had to draw and animate a bunch of science examples. So like how you can tie a bit of rope to a tree, tie the other end to a car, and if you pull the rope in the middle, you'll move the car because of the tree is standing there. I'm no scientist. Obviously I draw for a living, and that was really great fun. It's a really great gig to do, and that's one of the ones that you sort of like, fingers crossed you get a few more of those. But then in the meantime as well, you're working on your own project, and you're hoping this is going to be the next big one that's going to be that's going to make me my money. That's the one. That's the CITV version of the one that won the BAFTA on S4C.
Oh, cool.
So yes, I did.
BAFTA, or is it shared?
Is it what?
Do you get to keep your BAFTA, or was it shared?
No, it's shared. They give you two. One of them's in the studio, and the other one is with the show creator Alid. He's got it, but he did bring it around my house, so I had a bunch of photos with it.
I've seen that photo. Yeah, I've seen you.
Yeah. I worked on series 1 because series 2 they decided to do more in-house. They didn't outsource it. So there's, at the start of each episode and the end of each episode, there's an animated section where some quite simple animations and stuff, but to get the message across about zombies have taken over and all this like. And it was a really good fun to work on. That was. It was sort of, I mean, well, someone's paying you to draw zombies. It's pretty cool. And that was great fun to do.
It looks like a fun project.
Yeah, I got to be for that series as well. There are a lot of wide shots where they're supposed to be showing you the world in ruins and stuff, and you see zombies marching about. And I went to a military base up in where was it? I don't know if it's somewhere west of where I am now, but somewhere in Wales. I went to this military base. No, it was up by what's the racetrack on the border of Wales?
What, the horse racing? Chepstow.
Yeah, Chepstow. Yeah, there's a military base. The military base by Chepstow, and I went there for the day, and we were done up as zombies, And we were just walking around these abandoned buildings and stuff. So if you watch those episodes, there's live action bits. You can see, and I had a beard down here as well, so I look proper hobo-ish. And it was really, really cool. And they phoned me up. They said, "Do you fancy being paid to be a zombie for a day?" I was like, "Yeah." I said,
"No brainer."
Yeah, I said, "Can my missus come?" He's like, "Yeah, bring her along." So we were both zombies in it. So it was awesome. But so now my Internet Movie Database page is,
You as a zombie, yeah.
Yeah, me as a zombie, yeah. That's it. Yeah, but it was cool.
It's interesting though how you always keep coming back to comics, though. Obviously, comics is a very, it's a very tricky medium to create because, as you said, there's so many. If you choose to write, draw, pencil, color, letter, publish, distribute, it's a,
it's a lot of work.
It is. I got a few thoughts on that. Like over the last 10 years since I started, the UK scene has exploded quite a lot, and comic shops are starting to pay more attention to self-published indie comics now than they used to. Like I got my comics into Forbidden Planet when we started, but that was because I used to be assistant manager there. So I managed to get them. So I give Kev O'Donnell up in Glasgow an email. I said, "Kev, would you stock my comic?" And emailed me back saying, yeah, no worries. Yeah, go on, give him to Lucy. Take an invoice with you. I was like, oh, all right, wicked. So like I got in early doors in that sense. But I do think that we're on the back foot in the UK anyway, because the US pretty much is unless you're in France. Like we've talked, Shane and I were talking about Comic Cons in Europe being bigger than the UK ones, which is true.
Yeah.
But like I can't get over to France or anything like that. But I have got contacts in America, and I'm sort of starting to think now about asking them if they can ask their comic shops if they stock indies, and if they do, how I go about getting them in there. But I think you have a bit of an advantage in America because you've got all that access to the big three as well, if you want it, and if you're good enough. Which I might not be good enough. I might be, I'm probably not. But
it's such a big market as well. You can actually make it as an indie publisher in the US if you get a good audience, because it's so huge. You could sell to the equivalent of half the population of the UK in the States.
That's right.
So many
if you
more
look
people.
At the Turtles comic, when I started in, what was it, 85? And they did issue one, and they sold out of issue one in comic shops like straight away. They had a couple of thousand copies, and that sold out straight away, and they had to get more printed. And then there was a high demand for it from there, and that was from getting into a few comic shops in America. Now, can you imagine doing that in the UK and getting the same sort of response?
You'd have to be in every shop, wouldn't you, to sell those sort of numbers?
That's
There's definitely a market. There's definitely a market for your stuff. And look at Scotty Young. I mean, he sells. You could, it's the same market.
Can I just go back to the Turtles thing? Because obviously that was a phenomenon, but this was pre-internet. I wonder how, if it was true, if it actually was true, or was it just a marketing thing that Eastman did? That it's sold out, and then we reprinted. I can't imagine how the buzz would have happened from like nothing.
That's what I don't get. And I mean, I know obviously America's got
it might be a little bit of a bit of showmanship.
Yeah, definitely. And it was a combination of everything, I think, with Turtles, wasn't it? It was right place, right time, because everybody was ready for something like that.
But they didn't look like the Turtles when they first
not originally.
Daredevil, it was Daredevil, wasn't it?
It was based on
Ronin, wasn't it?
Frank Miller.
Yeah. Ronin.
It was all Miller influenced, wasn't it?
My favorite story about the Turtles is Kevin Eastman was fed when he sold out, and so he got all the cartoon money and stuff like that, and he had enough, and he went to the Amazon rainforest, and just to get away from all the turtle stuff, and they were walking through the Amazon rainforest. And there was like a tribe, and his guide said, "There's a tribe here. They've hardly ever spoken to Western people, so we've come to meet them." And the kid who walked up to say hello to Kevin Eastman had a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle T-shirt on, and he was like, "I can't fucking get away from it anywhere, even in the deepest, darkest depths of the Amazon."
thing is, though, at that point, it was so far, like, it saturated everything. They were probably dropping K parcels with turtles stuff in them, turtle pizza, you know. But no, I think I love that how the UK scene has taken off. There's not really, if you're not pushing it yourself, nobody's pushing it for you. Well, that's not true. That's not fair. That's doing things like Comic House disservice there. But that is digital.
There are some services out there, aren't there, that are starting to do it now. There are some options.
Yeah, and it's
My Comics as well.
Yeah, and it's like you want to get that reach, and that's where Kickstarter, I think, is good. Now, I've heard another indie creator or two say that Kickstarter has become a pre-order service. Now, I don't think it is, because my thoughts on this are that you're not guaranteed that funding, right? So you have to hit your target, and you figure out what your target should be. And then Kickstarter advises that whatever you think it is, add 20% on top, because stuff happens, shit happens, and who are you going to call? And they advise you to do that. So I like with this current Kickstarter, I figured out that I need my printing costs in that are factored into that £1,000. My letterers costs are factored into that £1,000, and I factored in postage costs as well. Then I launched it, and I completely forgot I hadn't added in the Kickstarter fees that were going to be taken out of that. So now that I'm over target, I'm okay now that I'm over target. But that was stupid on my part, especially considering this is my fourth Kickstarter. You'd have thought that I'd be a dab hand at it by now, but no. But you're not guaranteed that funding. You have to work hard. You have to keep on. And people probably muted me on Facebook whenever I go on my Kickstarter rants, and I wouldn't blame them if they did. But the problem with stuff like your Facebook and your Twitter feeds and your Instagram is that you'll post something. If someone's in work, they don't see it. So they if you post it in the morning, they come home in the evening, they're not going to see it because their feed has been filled up by whoever's walked their dog and posted a picture of it, etc.
Oh, it's so difficult, isn't it, to know how to post, because, like you say, you can become everybody's worst nightmare because they're seeing your stuff in their feed constantly, but other people just aren't getting it. It doesn't matter how many times you post, they will not see that post, and it's really difficult to sort of judge. I guess the thing is to try and post at different times of day.
That's it. I looked up, I did a Google once for Instagram on what are the 2 best times of day to post your artwork or whatever, and they say something like between 10 and 11 in the morning and between 5 and 7 at night are the best times. And that sort of has worked a little bit with some posts, but it's kind of frustrating as well, because you almost feel like you're not. I mean, this sounds like proper conspiracy nut, but almost like you're being shadow banned for not buying the advertising. Because I'll do a post where I'll do one of my drawings, and I'll get, let's say I get 75 likes on it, and you think, oh, right, okay, that one's done reasonably well for my account. And then you post one that's advertising your Kickstarter, and you get like 12 likes. And you're like, surely even my friends are on my feed and would give me a pity like, So there's that sort of feeling there where you have to stay on your grind and you have to keep pushing and pushing it. So it's not a pre-order service because you're not guaranteed that money. You have to work hard to get it. And if my Kickstarter didn't hit target, then chances are my comic wouldn't get produced. Because I can't afford to. My day job is illustrating, but it's not, and I get by. But it's certainly not something that people are going to be coming at me and saying, Dan, can you lend me a couple of grand? Because I do go, fucking no. No, are you mad? So that money helps me publish comics, and it makes it worthwhile. So, for example, like getting 1,000 copies of a book printed, then you work out your unit cost might be, say, 40p a book, or maybe 90p a book. So you're paying 90 pence a book. It might be less than that. Depending on where you go. So if you went with someone like Mixam, who I've used for COSPLAYER, I think it did work out at about 45 to 50 pence per book printing, and that's for 1,000 copies. Whereas with Loose Cannon, we were getting 100 copies printed per time, because that's all we could afford. We put our own money into it, so we could only afford to get 100 comics printed per time. We were selling them at £3. The unit cost per issue was £1.80, and then on top of that, you've got the costs of going to the conventions, booking your tables, the petrol, and all that.
There's no profit, is there?
No.
There's no profit.
No. So you're making £1.20 per comic, but that's got to cover your costs then. So you literally are making nothing on it. And because you're making so little on it, then you're not getting enough to increase your print run for the next issue. So you're still getting 100 copies of that issue printed. Whereas Kickstarter allows you to do it so that the unit cost is 45 to 50p, but that's absorbed by the Kickstarter. So then you can, if you go over your targets, you can maybe use some of that money to invest in starting off your comic cons, or you can use the profit from any comics you do sell as the way of covering that, because the unit cost has already been covered. So literally everything you sell there after your costs is profit. And that's why you've got to work on your sales pitch when you're at comic cons as well. Like, for example, you do see a lot of people at comic cons and they just stand at their tables and they don't say boo. You know, they
see that all the time. When you know, I always do the rounds at ICE, you know, round all the tables, see how people are getting on. And the amount of people that think that they don't have to sell, you know, they just stand there, or sometimes they don't even engage. The amount of people I see just looking at their phones, sitting down, looking at their phones, not even making eye contact with the people who are walking past. It's like, how do you think they're going to sell anything?
I do get it, because there is that whole like, traditionally, going back in the old days, I mean, you guys are all of the same age as me. You know, you say I'm the youngest, but we're all from that same sort of age group, roughly. Yeah. Now, I remember like being, yes, okay, you're higher, but
no, not me, Shane.
Oh, well.
Andy's actually the oldest, I think. I do have to reveal that. I know he doesn't look it, but he is actually the oldest.
It's the mileage.
It's my birthday this month.
Well, happy birthday for later this month.
Yeah. I wish I could say it's my 50th, but it's not.
It's a case of growing up, though, in like the 80s and 90s with comics and stuff. It wasn't like a really popular thing. It wasn't cool. And I generally find that a lot of the people that I knew that were in comics lacked that bit of self-confidence. You know, they generally didn't. I wasn't very self-confident at all. I sort of basically in school, I had no confidence. When I went to college, I was like, right, I've got a chance here to recreate myself, you know, and be the person who I wanted to be. Because in school I was bullied and that knocked my confidence. And one day I went to Cardiff with two of my school friends. One of them collected comics, and he came from a wealthy family, you know, so he collected a lot of comics. I'm there with my like 3 issues going. But then this one boy came with us, and he'd never come with us before when we were doing our comic run, but he wanted to go to Cardiff. She said, all right. So he came into Forbidden Planet with us, and he bought himself a couple of comics. He didn't know anything about them. And I said, look, do me a favor. I won't name his name, but I said, do me a favor. I said, look, don't tell anybody about this in school. I said, because I get enough shit as it is. I don't want to have to deal with the people in school having to go at me because I read comics. And so he went, oh yeah, no worries, no worries. So Monday morning comes, and I should point out as well that the wealthier kid who bought a lot of comics was very popular. Me, not so much. The kid who came with us, middling popularity. So we get to school on Monday, and everybody knows. As soon as I walk up, everybody knows I read comics, and they're all taking a piss out of me. Oh, you fucking read comics? You're a child, and all this. Like, and I was like 14 and like shriveling in on myself and dying inside. And
we've all been there, man.
Yeah, but this mate had told everybody I read comics and said, oh yeah, I bought them as well, and they were fucking shit. All this, and he bought Dark Star. It was issue 1 of Dark Star, for crying out loud, you know.
God, I remember that.
And so he told everybody I read comics, didn't tell anybody that the popular kid did. Right? And like, so people are like, why do geeks lack confidence? Gee, I wonder, you know? So that put me off comics until I went to college. And then when I went to college, I met my best mate who was like, oh, have you ever heard of Witchblade? I'm like, what the fuck is Witchblade? And he showed me Michael Turner's artwork, and I'm like, you know, Michael Turner's artwork in the 90s was a revelation to me. I look back on it now and I think, oh yeah, you could see he was starting out. But I love this. So I've got a lot of love for Witchblade and Michael Turner, because if it hadn't been for Michael Turner, I probably wouldn't be where I am now.
It had a lot of energy, didn't it? That art, though. Yeah. I mean, yes, he was learning his craft, but you could tell right from the get-go that he had a lot of energy in his work. He was a very unique voice, you know?
Yeah, he was. And like, as he developed his own style and he set up his own company, you know, and I think he started giving like smaller artists a chance then as well, which I thought was pretty cool. But this brings me back to my point then, you know, so that kickstarted it all off for me. But I didn't really have much in the way of confidence until I got into college and I decided to turn it around. But I know that there are a lot of people who aren't going to do that. So you get some people. So I understand at Comic Cons where you're sat at a table and you don't want to talk to these people because you're like, oh, I don't want to bother them, I don't want to intrude, or, you know, or you might be arrogant enough to think it sells itself. But I think a lot of people are, you know, oh, I don't want to like be in their face. But then at the same time, what people have got to realize, and this is me talking from the other side of the table as well, because I know I get that feeling where I don't want to get in their face. I don't want to be like shoving it down their throats. But then I remember from the other side of the table, walking past people's tables and being too scared to approach. And when they're not saying anything to me, it doesn't make me go, oh, you know, but if they do say something, then I feel engaged and I don't feel so nervous anymore, because I used to take a wide berth around tables. And part of me does get that sort of fear as well, that if you do go up close to a table, the person at that table is going to expect you to buy something, you know, and that's another fear where you're there. And then you feel bad when you walk off and you haven't picked up their comic, or, you know, or weirdly, at a lot of these comic cons, they don't sell comics, they got keychains. So, you know, and you're like, oh, yeah, and you walk off. And I always feel
interesting one about 20 years ago when it was both Brody's Law and the Etherington brothers started doing the cons. Do you remember that? And it was like huge San Diego style.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, what is this?
Real salesmen, weren't they? They knew how to sell.
Their tables always look the business as well. Like you can't help, like you walk past that, and even if you end up buying one of their books and not liking it, you'll go to another con and you'll see them there, and you'll go, oh, I'll go have a look, you know, because you can't help but be drawn in by them. And you know, I've got their How to Think When You Draw books. I've got the first two, I think. Right. And you know, they're pretty good. And I've got one of their old graphic novels, which I didn't really like, but at the same time, it never put me off them, because I think that their stuff is generally so good, I get drawn in by it. But they've got that energy that doesn't make you fear them, you know, or you don't feel like afraid to go up to them. It feels more like a store rather than I don't know, this person who's shying away at their table, not talking to you, and you know. So I try and meet a middle ground where I'll talk to, if someone walks past and they look at me, I'll say, hey, you know, I'll give them a little wave or whatnot. And then sometimes I might do something ridiculous, like I have at past cons, if someone's looked past me, if they're in like bubbly moods, I'll go, do you like to laugh? And then I'll do my thing, you know. But there was this one, I did an MCM once, and I was next to this guy, and I can't remember his name for the life of me. Can't remember what his book was, can't remember anything. I don't even know if he had a book or if he was just doing prints. Now, I had nothing against him. I thought he was quiet. He wasn't selling to anybody. But I was pushing myself because I was in London. I thought, if you can't sell in London, you can't sell anywhere, because this is your time. Like, you know, you're in London. There's so many people.
You paid a lot for your table, so you may as well
paid a fucking lot for your table. So I was like, right. So I was pitching to people, and I had this same pitch that I do, and you know, always different people coming past, but I do the same pitch. And then I got a message later on off Gav Mitchell, of Trolltooth Wars, Rumrow and all that, and he sent me a message saying, is this you? And it was a picture of the guy sat next to me. He'd put a tweet out with a little bit of my table in shot saying, fucking tell me about your fucking comic again, mate. Yeah, your fucking 6 issues, I want to fucking hear it. And then all these other people were playing going, oh my God, if he has to try that hard, then his book must be shit. I was like, who the fuck? And I thought, if he's got a problem with me, I'm sat fucking next to him. Like,
that is unbelievable. The ultimate keyboard warrior.
You're being watched.
Oh, I know.
Your brother was watching you.
That is unbelievable. We've had a comment from Barry Redshaw. All right, Barry. A common mistake exhibitors make is not pricing things clearly or having an intro worked out to someone unfamiliar to comics. So people are often too polite to ask and risk being put off if it's too expensive.
I agree. Barry is right. I would also say as well, like, we do price our stuff on the table. We put out the price stickers. But what I've found as well is, and this doesn't speak to everybody, obviously this certainly doesn't apply to Barry, but you do find that even when you have the price stickers on there, people will look at your stuff and then they'll still say, and how much are they? And you do get that a lot. Like Luke Scannon has got the price on the cover as well, you know, and we have prices up, and we even do like an offer. If you buy all 8 issues, you can have them for this price, sort of thing. And we do pair it up. But I do agree, a lot of exhibitors don't price up at all, and it can make people feel awkward about saying, no, I don't want to get. I agree with that, because I feel like that sometimes myself. But at the same time, if it's not for you, don't be afraid to say that it's not for you, because, you know, why should you give your money to someone that, you know, for, I have seen again, this was in London, but it was the one, what was the one in Earl's Court? It was the LFCC. London
LSCC,
Film Court.
yeah.
Before they knocked down Earl's Court. Now there was this. I was next to this company, comic book company, and they were doing their sales technique consisted of one of them standing up on a chair, pointing at people who went past and going, "You," really aggressively, and he going, "Come here." So they go over to the table and he goes, here's my book. And he rammed his book in their faces, right? And this baffled me, right? Because they were selling gangbusters. They would like money hand over fist. I'm sat next to them going, what? And it was almost verging on abuse. And then so someone would go, oh, go on then, I'll take this one comic. And they go, oh no, well, if you like that one, then there's this one as well. You know, and you can take this. And he was doing that. And there was one customer who had the experience. She went up and she was with her girlfriend, right? And she goes up and she ends up buying a wad of comics off him. And as she's walking off, I hear her turn to her girlfriend and go, I didn't want to buy these. And it was just his sound technique. It was so aggressive and in your face. And I'm there thinking, and then they're there high-fiving each other. One of them in his fucking Matrix coat with his sunglasses on inside Earl's Court, which is really poorly lit. You know, and they're high-fiving each other. And I'm like, it seems scummy. So no, I agree that pricing should be clearer. I think the problem with a lot of small press people, and I'm guilty of this as well, is you get to a con and then you go, oh fuck, I haven't made up any price tags, and then you're like shit, and then you're looking through your suitcase for a sheet of paper that you can write £5 on or whatever.
And it looks crap, doesn't it, when you've just written it on?
It does. It looks really crap. Yeah,
the other thing is forgetting change as well. Have you ever forgotten to have change? Oh yeah,
that's
a nightmare.
And when you open up your kitty and you look, and there's like two £20 notes, a tenner, and then you've got a couple of 20p's, and you're like, oh, I just didn't think this through at all.
You've got to price up your comics. There's a start for conversation of like, oh well, that's too expensive, or how about you have this and
well, a lot of people will just walk away if it's not priced. I mean, I do it. You know, if the price isn't on something, sometimes you don't want to ask because they're busy talking to someone else, and you wait a while, and then it's good. Oh, it's not. You know, I'll just walk off. It just makes it that much easier to sell a book if people know how much it is. You know.
I also think.
Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, I think when Comic Cons do get going again, because of health issues and whatever, that Apple Pay, I think it'll be pretty much cashless. I think people will be expecting now just to flash the phone over your phone for the $5. Boof.
More people are expecting that. Even at cons a few years ago, you know, when I was cabling still, which is going back a bit, people would say, oh, you only accept cash?
You don't take cards? Yeah.
I
Especially in London.
I invested in an iZettle.
London. Oh, London people don't do cash anymore.
No. Yeah. I invested in an iZettle, and in the last, say, 5 years, it's been a godsend for Comic Cons because more and more people are like, do you take card? You know, in the olden days, nobody would even fucking think of asking if you took card, you know, because it was just purely cash. You know?
That just wouldn't happen, would it? No. It wouldn't. I remember the first time someone asked me, I was appalled.
Well,
you know?
wasn't last year, but the year before last, I was selling some back issues in Leamington Convention, and I sold more stuff by getting people to send me money on PayPal at the table than cash. Just because they're like, oh, okay. I was like, well, why don't you buy this comic as well? Because you were doing me PayPal. I'm like,
as well. Yeah.
And they just give me PayPal. Bang.
It does seem that when people can pay by cards, they do feel more like they can.
It's not money, though, is it? It's just it's a magic card. It's just
they're not really spending money. Thanks for the comment, by the way, Barry. Yes, the Etherington brothers could indeed sell wood to the.
Oh, was it them? Was it the Etherington brothers?
No.
It was them.
It was probably a horror comic.
They ran the most successful comic Kickstarter in history.
They did. That's what we were talking about before. What was it? $500,000 or something they got?
Oh, I thought it was more. I thought it was like 2 million.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
What, dollars?
Yeah, it might have been dollars. I don't know. But
no, it was £1 million. But I hope they're friends with the tax man.
Yeah.
If not. Anyway, we've had our hour. There. We've had more than an hour. Chris, I want to just ask Chris, mate, how are you doing? You've been sat there, nice and quiet.
He's come on.
He's come on. It's the last show of season 1 for anyone who doesn't know that.
Yeah.
So Chris has come on to just say a short goodbye to the listeners, haven't you, Chris?
That's right. Yeah. Just throw me that in.
Yeah.
And how are you doing, mate? You all right?
Yes, I'm okay. Trying to take some holiday time. Built up over the lockdown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm doing the same next week as well. I'm taking the first week off of the year.
Ah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This year, so well. It seems like a year.
First time you've had a week off, like.
First time I've had a week off.
Wow. And what are we in? We're in June, and you've not had a week off yet, mate.
No.
Yeah.
Well, I had 2 days off because we were moving, but that doesn't count, does it?
No.
We moved house.
That's hard work.
Andy, you're looking like a Vertigo creator in the dark. Just
I can hold on.
Every time Shane moves his head back, he's right. Move your head back, Shane. There you go.
It's got a halo.
I don't think you're allowed. I don't think you're allowed to talk about.
Effect. Look at that.
I don't think you're allowed to talk about Vertigo yet, though, are you?
Why?
Who needs CGI? Look at that.
It's too soon. It's too painful.
Oh yeah, Black Label.
Yeah, you got that.
What's Shane playing with? Oh dear.
Playing with his head.
Oh, so
but I think we're winding down.
We are. And
so we've had a good run.
Big thank you to Dan for coming on tonight. Thank you, Dan.
I apologize for
very quickly, Dan. Sorry, just give one last plug for the Kickstarter.
Yeah.
How long you got to run?
The Cosplayer That Doomed the Earth issue 3 on Kickstarter now till the 1st of July. You can catch up if you haven't read the first 2 issues. 1 to 3 are available, as well as a bunch of my other comics and stuff. And there's lots of cool rewards.
Good price. What are we talking? Tenner.
Yeah. It's for issue 1 to 3. I think it's £12.
There you go.
For all 3.
Can't go wrong.
Really, and then I think it's £5 if you've already got the first 2. So
good value for money, that is. And
yeah,
one last comment from Barry.
Seriously, one day, mate.
Oh,
cheers, Barry.
Really good to hear from you, Barry. Thanks for that comment, mate.
You've always been dropping in. Yes, he's been.
Well, yeah.
Wow.
Thank you to everyone. Thank you to everyone who's supported the show, actually, and all of our guests that have been on in season 1. All you guys for being there when my technology doesn't work, and Chris as well. Thank you for always, being there and commenting when you've not been on the show. You've still commented and been part of it.
I'm always lurking.
I will say for Chris, he's been so quiet. He's like the enforcer. Like you're there and you've got that one bodyguard who stood there and was watching.
Well, funny enough, that's what he does at the shows.
Yeah.
It is. That's what he does. He just stares at people. Yeah.
If you imagine the Icecast as a Saturday morning show, this has been like the winter shows, like the main one. Then you have the weird summer holiday, like 6 weeks between the 2 ones. And we might have the odd weird show where we come and talk, bollocks or comics or comics and bollocks. So watch out for the feed to see for an invitation, because we want lots of people to come in and just ask silly questions and do like a random talk. None of this serious talking to comic book creators. Like that. Just talking bollocks.
That's what we're
going to do.
Sam, I thought you was going to say you was a phantom flanflinger or something.
Yeah, Italian fly.
In real life,
I explained to my kids. I described Tiswas to my kids, and my youngest said, "That just sounds like child abuse." They lock kids in cages and throw water at them, and it's hilarious. They put custard pies in their faces. Brilliant. Sounds like child abuse.
And spit the dog. Good old spit the dog.
Do you remember OTT? Do you remember?
Yeah.
That was the adult Tiswas, wasn't it?
One. I think they had a clip from Heavy Metal the movie with like robots and boobies and stuff.
Oh, brilliant! I mean, that's the thing. Like Tiswas used to have movie clips on it.
I think Dan's too young for this talk. He's 10 years younger than most of us.
Do you remember Tiswas, Dan?
I know Tiswas. I don't remember it.
Have you heard of Star Wars? Do you remember the Beatles?
Hey, when I were a lad.
All it road. Anyway, on that note, guys.
Right.
It's a wrap.
It down.
Let's run that
very much to everybody.
Thank you,
Cheers,
Dan. Thank you, everybody.